The community of Bridgewater in the Adelaide Hills has never had a proper war memorial. So these kids and others from the local school decided to design and build a new one. After 5 long years of work, it's now nearly finished. Can you tell me what is left to do?
Well, there's going to be a boomerang with a rising sun just at the back,
Okay.
and then a sign with Remember on it down at the front, and some fences and some pavers, but that's about it, really.
The boomerang with the rising sun, what does that mean?
That symbolises that all Australians were part of the war.
Memorials and monuments like this one are a common feature of Remembrance Day commemorations right around the world. At 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month, people gather at places like the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne or the Australian War Memorial in Canberra. They stand still and silent and then listen to a bugler playing the last post. People have been marking Remembrance Day like this since 1919, but back then it was actually called Armistice Day because it marked the anniversary of the day the armistice was signed and the First World War finally ended.
November the 11th, Armistice Day.
At the time, hundreds of people gathered in London to celebrate the end of the conflict and to remember those who died. People did the same here in Australia. The tradition of silence on Remembrance Day was actually suggested by an Aussie journalist called Edward Honey. He thought it'd be a sacred gesture to acknowledge those who died fighting for peace. Britain's king at the time, King George V, liked the idea and declared 2-minute silence across the British Empire. Since the first armistice ceremony, people have added new traditions to the commemorations, like wearing red poppies. That was inspired by a poem called In Flanders Fields, which describes the poppies that sprung up on abandoned battlefields in France and Belgium. Later on in 1945, when World War II ended, the Australian and British governments changed the name of Armistice Day to Remembrance Day instead, so the people who served in all wars could be remembered together. The last post, poetry, poppies, and a bunch of other traditions are still important parts of the memorials that happen today. Along with places like this in the Adelaide Hills, that will proudly form the centrepiece of these kids' commemorations for years to come.
Well, I did have a great granddad, my mum did, and he fought in World War I. And I've never actually thought of him as a soldier before or as my relative. And now that there's a place here, I just find that it's easier.
Makes me feel happy because it's a great place to meet up and it's in a good spot.
It's special to me because it's a place not just to remember, but it's a place for everyone. It's not just for one subject, it's sort of a place where you can do anything really.